All right, now we welcome in Will Mannon, who is the course director at the Forte Academy out in Santa Monica, California. Will, how are you doing, sir?
What's up, Andrew? I'm doing really well. Happy Friday.
Happy,
Excited to talk to you.
happy Friday indeed. Super Bowl weekend this weekend. Really excited to have you on. Talk about a little bit of the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady. Get some college football, college basketball in there as well. But before we start, I know that you have an incredible position and doing great things at the Forte Academy with a couple of different internet learning cohorts, including the rite of passage and building a second brain. Real quick, for those that, who maybe that's foreign to, what's your role at the Forte Academy and what's your job responsibilities entail?
Totally. So I'm course director for Forte Academy. So officially, that means I'm responsible for designing and delivering our student experience and operations for our courses. So Forte Academy, we're the education wing of the company I work for, Forte Labs. And the whole mission, in a sentence, is to help knowledge workers radically transform their productivity to fuel creative expression in their work and lives. That's what we like to say. But basically, the idea is through these two flagship courses we have, how do people take advantage and harness the upside of living in this crazy information age while minimizing the downside. And part of harnessing that upside is not just reading good things or having good conversations, but actually creating things, writing, or podcasts like this, or maybe creating something for your work or for a hobby, but actually creating something. And so we have these two flagship courses, Building a Second Brain and Rite of Passage. And Building a Second Brain is founded by my company's founder, Tiago Forte. And the idea is how do you use digital note-taking to, again, harness the power of information to create things. And then the second course is more focused on writing and how to write specifically in the online age. So I can go more into detail, but that's the general overview of what I do, what we do.
That's excellent. And if 2020 really taught us anything, it's that the internet, this age of information that we're living in, is so vitally important. But more than just information and having the data out there, you have to take action and put something out into the marketplace, learn from others, but also like produce something. Otherwise it's kind of just, there's no direction, right? So it's really interesting what you do. And again, really thank you for hopping on, joining me in the Minor Lounge to discuss a little bit about some of the things that you're doing, as well as some sports, because I know we both love that. Real quick, I really wanted to focus on some of these big picture items that you've been doing. And for those that don't know, Will Mannon is very, very active on social media, on Twitter. Through his company, but also, kind of building his own brand of, kind of taking the best quotes out there from books or articles and putting them out for the world just to kind of contemplate and ponder. How did you get started on that, Will? And what are a few favorite quotes, that come to your head that you really think about constantly? I know you probably have a ton. To give me like one or two.
Yeah. I'll pick a couple good ones. So basically, I'd say it's kind of funny because after college, I started reading in a sense. Like, I didn't do a lot of the reading in college, just kind of slacking around and having too much fun and getting distracted with things. But I kind of came back to, I always loved books as a kid. I mean, I read some in college, right? But I wasn't reading a lot for fun. And I came back to books about a year out of college. I read this book called Barbarian Days: A Surfing Life by a guy, William Finnegan. And he was his sort of long-term career was a writer for the New Yorker. But in his 20s, he grew up in Hawaii and Southern California. And in his teens and 20s, he surfed and surfed and surfed. And he ended up surfing all over the world in his 20s, trying to find himself. And it was a great story about his life, but it was also just the most beautifully written prose I'd read, at least the most beautifully written words I've read in a long time. And so I was just so struck by this book. It kind of got me back into books. So I started reading a bunch, read a good amount last 5 years. And I just, certain books in particular, and then certain passages within those books just stand out to me. And really kind of stick with me. And then so I've just started sharing those, like you mentioned, on Twitter, trying to publish something every day on Twitter. So I often just fire off a quote I like. I've got a bunch of quotes on my website. It's like more than 200 at this point. Oh man, but okay, a couple favorites. One I'll share is from a book by a guy named Anthony Doerr, and it's called All the Light We Cannot See. It's a novel about a guy and a girl living in Germany and France during World War II. And he says, he's describing something, and he basically says, what mazes there are in this world, none more complicated than the human brain, one wet kilogram within which spin universes. I read that and it just stopped me in my tracks, and I didn't know what to do about it, so I just read it again and again, and words like that just kind of really hit me. And so I love reading because I love finding those moments that just knock you over. So that's one. And then another is a quote from a short film that I just found online called The World of Tomorrow, but it says, live well and live broadly, do not dwell in petty detail, now is the envy of all of the dead. And that's another one that just knocked me over. So I got a couple dozen more I can mention, but I don't want to go too long on the quotes. But yeah, I love quotes for sure. So.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And you say publish, and I've always found that very interesting because a lot of people are doing that on Twitter, where they do Twitter threads, and it's not maybe technically original, but it's definitely original in the sense that it's a new way of looking at it. By publishing quotes and kind of offering your own take on on analyzing it, and that's just one way to kind of get your, build your brand if that's what you're looking to do out on social media. And I know that's what those classes that you direct and teach are all about, right? Harnessing that information and really building the brand, whether it's through a website or social media platform. So it's all very interesting. And obviously the surfer book, you're right by the water. We can see in the background, it's beautiful. So it's nice. And that kind of brings me, to my next question of, you obviously moved out. So for those that don't know, you moved out to California after college, and kind of, had a few stops, but basically kind of in the central or near Silicon Valley. And you've gone from working at a Fortune 500 company, or even, even greater, really, Fortune 500 tech company, to like a startup, mid-tier, cybersecurity startup, that's a very tantalizing industry at this point, to being employee number one of a startup really in its infancy, where you are now. What has that journey been like for you? Because you've kind of seen all ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, it's very different. Oracle, it's roughly 200,000 employees, really, really large company, to kind of mid-sized 1,000 employees, just 3, like you mentioned. So I feel like I've learned a lot in both of them. So I try to kind of think about what you learn at each size. And I actually really liked starting out at a big company. I mean, as you know too, like there's a lot of things you learn at a big place that you wouldn't learn at a small company. So yeah, let me think. One thing I definitely learned early on at a big company was that if you could find ways to be approach things creatively or differently, you could really stand out, because there's this way, kind of official way things are done. And I think if you can, for example, when I was a business development rep, right, you're just starting out, but I had this idea. I was like, oh, if we published a sort of quarterly summary of what was happening in our BDC org, that would get people informed about what's happening in our building. And there was a couple hundred of us in this office. So I just launched this thing called the BDC quarterly newsletter, and wrote some stories and got some people to contribute. And it was really fun, and it kind of got passed around the office. And that made me stand out a bit, which I think led to some other opportunities down the line. And you can, even in a formal company, I think there are ways to try to stand out or try to do things a bit differently. And when you do, it really does stand out, because not a lot of people are thinking like that. And also there's, at a big company, they'll often give you the reason for why things are done a certain way, but you kind of learn that there's always sort of, what I like to say is like the reason, and then like the real reason. And so if you can find, I was just talking to somebody from Baylor actually, who's now going to go work at Oracle, got connected, and was giving her this advice too, which is you got to find the people at the big company who have been around a while, who are really sharp, and they kind of know what's what. Like they kind of know the real reason, not just the reason. So that when, say, your company says, hey, here's this great new product, it's fantastic, go sell it. And you bang your head against the wall for 6 months trying to sell it, and then the product gets discontinued. If I'd had, my inside guy early on, I could have known, hey, this product, they're saying it's great, but it's really not great. Focus on something else. So it took me like 2 or 3 years to learn that. But what I was telling this girl is that the sooner you can find the people who know, kind of the shadow network at the company who really know what's going on, the better you'll do. But it's not intuitive. Like, you got to figure that out with trial and error. So I feel like the stuff I was learning at a big company, and then, going to the smaller company, it goes very much from like swimming laps in a narrow pool to you're swimming in the ocean. And you have to have that Swiss Army knife mentality of, in my old role, I was selling a specific product in a specific vertical to literally one company. And now it's like, okay, officially I run all student experience and operations, but I also help a ton with marketing. I help on sales calls. I help design curriculum. It's kind of, I do all the one-man customer service team, like it's all across the board. So you just learn a lot less about sort of navigating an internal organization and company politics, but more just like throw you into the proverbial deep end and like just figure stuff out. So it's fun. It's sometimes frustrating. It's definitely longer hours, but I'm glad. I think it's cool to get both sides of it.
Yeah. I can only imagine. Like, do you find that like being creative, I'm just curious, right? Like, do you find that being creative helped you in this new role where you could go from anywhere from being like, hey, my HR hat versus my sales hat versus my like teaching hat. What was like the biggest thing that you learned, on this, from the startup level, right? Like, I mean, you're my connection to the Silicon Valley, like startup, what you see in the movies type thing. Like, what's like the first week where like, maybe not necessarily first, but very early on, what was like the biggest mistake or thing that hit you, or was like, oh shoot, like, I have to either grow or pivot or adapt or like learn from my mistake that I made. Was there ever like an aha moment for you at this like very obviously like person of, like three person company?
Yeah. It's a really good question. Like the biggest mistake. I've definitely made mistakes. I'll say one thing that early on that I really wanted to prove myself early on. I started out on a part-time basis, but I'd taken these guys' classes. I liked what they were doing. I didn't know I'd have an opportunity to work full-time, but I was given a chance to work part-time. And so I think I was like, okay, I can't make any mistakes. And also I have to go way above and beyond, like that whole thing from sales, like under promise, over deliver.
Sure.
Like I want to keep working with these guys in some capacity. I don't know what, but I want to really over deliver here. So I started in October 2019. I was still working at my middle company, Darktrace. So I was still doing sales calls and, going to meetings and flying around and all that. And then we had this cohort we were launching for Rite of Passage. And I didn't know how many students, we were probably gonna have 100, 150 students. And I really wanted to like earn my keep and prove that I belonged. And so I told David, the founder, I want to do an intro call with every student just to give them a personal experience and just to show we care and to listen to why they've joined the class. And he's like, well, all right, I mean, that's a lot of calls, but you're welcome to if you want. I was like, great, I'll do it. So but then it's like, how do you do that? So I found this app called Calendly, which lets you, kind of send out a calendar for people to schedule time on your calendar. And I sent it out to everybody who bought, and I did like 80, 90 calls, half an hour each. Some of them went longer. It was a lot. Like I'd have whole Saturdays where I just block off 4 or 5 hours and just run calls back to back. But it was great because I learned a lot, and I think that actually helped me do my job a lot better. And then I also think it just demonstrated that I really cared, and then ultimately did get to work full time. So it's not necessarily a mistake, but it's more like me being sort of falling over myself to go above and beyond. So that not only was I not coming up short and making mistakes, but I was also over delivering and just showing that I really wanted to be there.
Yeah, just kind of cranking it up and finding ways to be creative, to stand out in a small pond, rather than a big pond. That's really interesting, and obviously I think we've talked some. That's more hours. It's a lot of calls that you're making over and over, planning the curriculum. And I found this is kind of like the one last big picture item that I kind of wanted to talk about. where you have this quote. I love this quote that Twitter is the marketplace of the internet, and that everybody kind of goes there to exchange ideas and information. And there's a lot on Twitter, from memes to financial advice to sports to news to whatever, right? And then there's so much. It's like, how do you filter that? And then you took a 10-day extended break after you finished one of your classes to go kind of to the middle of nowhere, Wyoming and Idaho, to stay in cabins and kind of just be one with nature and read and, put electronics aside. And then, I know you have some practices of muting Twitter and, to make sure that you're not time wasting and things like that, so that you're not getting bogged down with information overload. And they're kind of contradictory statements, right? Like, you got the marketplace of the internet, age of information, like more, all this data. And hey, in order for myself to be, in the now, which is the envy of all the dead, like you said, and, I want to limit that information intake as well, right? And produce quality, whatever I'm producing, produce quality stuff. But they're kind of these like two different, forces going head to head. How do you balance that, and what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it's really, really hard. I'm working on it, but I think it's one of the central questions of our time is how do we use, again, harness the power of this tool we've been given, the internet, the most radically different tool that the species have ever created. Like, how do we harness the power of that while also not getting bogged down in the negatives of that? Because like, we're really familiar with the negatives of the internet. It's either the things that are actively negative, say when people storm the Capitol, well, that wouldn't have happened without the internet, right? We know it tribalizes people and it puts people in echo chambers. There's also sort of the negative in the mundane sense where it's, oh, you just get lost in these trivialities of scrolling Instagram and watching Snap stories and, watching Netflix for 9 hours a day. So we always are very familiar with those negatives, but I do think there's this positive side that doesn't get talked about as much. So I do really like to talk about that positive side too. You can meet people, you can find new opportunities, found companies like never before. So there's these two sides. And I think Twitter is sort of this microcosm of the two sides, right? Because if you ask the average person about Twitter, they're like, oh, it's awful. Like, all right, you see the last president and how he used Twitter?
Yeah.
Have you seen, the way people talk to each other on there? Have you seen just the crap that people focus on Twitter? It's just a bunch of noise and garbage. And that's all true. That's all true. But it's also the most remarkable matching tool, again, that man has ever created. It's unbelievable. You can, if you curate it, if you use it deliberately, you can find people all over the planet who are interested in the same ideas you're interested in, who or interested in ideas adjacent to what you're interested in. So it kind of pulls you in these new directions and help you learn new things. You can have conversations both publicly and then the whole Twitter is almost, again, like shadow network where you can message people on Twitter DMs and talk to almost anybody in the world who's on Twitter just with one quick message. It's remarkable. It's you can actually think of Twitter as like a global brain in a way where humans are connected in a way they've never been before. So ideas can move so much more fluidly. It's almost like this virtual brain layer we've built on top of the actual world, which I know sounds maybe a bit crazy, but I really think it's something like that, something in that direction. So how do you manage it properly? Well, there's things you can do to structure your environment such that you don't get sucked into the tool too much. Because I'm the first one, I don't have the self-control to not check Twitter for the 29th time. And I get sucked into the vortex of it pretty often. But things I've done to combat that, there's a Chrome extension which blocks you from seeing the trending items. So you don't click, oh, what did, Kendall Jenner say today or whatever. You'll click that. You don't really care about, what she said, but Twitter's nudging you to care. So I block all of those with this Chrome extension. After my solitude trip, which you mentioned, I just unfollowed muted every single person on Twitter. My feed is empty. I have some lists that I can look at occasionally to see what people are up to, but my Twitter feed is completely empty. And I'm going to keep it like that way for a while. So yeah, it's hard, but there's steps you can take that are structural that at least give you a bit of an edge. But it's like all of history we fought the problems of scarcity, like, oh, there's not enough food in the village, let's go hunt. There's not enough water, we don't have strong enough shelters. Like, all of history has been fighting scarcity, and for the first time ever in the past 50, 100, 200 years, really 50 to 100 years, we now have a new problem of abundance. So scarcity is not a problem for a pretty good portion of people today, but we now have what I call the disease of abundance, where there's just so much coming at us. And so it's like a whole new skill set, is how to say no to the too muchness rather than how to try to scrap and get enough. So it's hard, but
Yeah.
work on it. I mean, I'm sure you deal with it too. Like, I don't know if you have ways that you deal with this stuff, but it's hard, but it's
definitely hard. And it's definitely hard, especially being like kind of in the sports realm of, kind of getting updates and writing articles, trying to find the breaking news. I mean, the teams can suspend their seasons at the drop of the hat this past year due to COVID, unfortunately. So all that breaking news is, kind of vital for what I do in terms of reporting and everything like that. But yeah, just try, the self-control is tough, but I was really curious about just that trip and what you learned from that, or if you had a favorite memory from your time over there.
Yeah, it was really special. I just been on so many calls, so many Zoom calls. I think I sent like 10,000 emails in the first 10 months of the year. Just create like a lot of digital connectiveness. And so somewhere in September, I was like, I need a break. And I just pulled up Airbnb one Saturday and started looking into the western portion of the United States for cabins that were, say, less than $100 a night. And so I found a couple, classic, you'll laugh at this, but I found this perfect place in Idaho, like perfect. And I was like, that's my spot. I'm gonna go from October 4th to the 13th. I can't wait. I was like picturing it for like a week or two. It was so perfect in my mind. I couldn't wait. And I didn't book it. I like forgot to, I was like, I'll book it later. And then obviously it gets like booked up. And so then I was like, no, shoot, this is the perfect place. And there was only like 2 days available, like a Tuesday and a Wednesday night. But I was like, I can't not stay there. So I booked that place. And then the next closest cabin that was in my criteria was 5 hours away. So I was like, well, I'll just rent a car and go to both these places. Makes no sense to book a night for 2 nights, book a place for 2 nights, and then drive 5 hours for 7 more nights. But that's what I did. So I flew to Jackson Hole, rent a car, stayed for 2 nights, loved it, accidentally drove through Yellowstone the whole day. I was trying to go around Yellowstone, but it's so big. I ended up going through like the most beautiful part of Yellowstone and then spent 7 days in the other place. So it was a really special trip. I think a really cool moment was I read a lot of books, and I love reading. So that was really sort of replenishing or something, just to read all that. But then I was writing too. I wrote an article and another part of another one. And then I was doing a lot of journaling. And one day I was journaling and the sun was falling on the table. And then I just slowly watched, and every like minute or two I'd look back and I could actually see the sun moving across the table. And I wasn't really checking the clock during the day. I had nowhere to be, I had no meetings to be at. So I could slow time down enough to actually watch the sun slowly move across this table. And I was reflecting on my life and writing in my journal and watching the sun move. And it just felt very present in a way that I don't normally feel with the frenzied day to day. So that was one of them. That was a good moment.
Very, very zen. Wow.
Yeah.
Like a sundial, going way back, just kind of moving across.
So it felt like, yeah.
Wow. Well, that's crazy. Well, thanks for your perspective on all that. That's really where I wanted to start. And, you're doing fabulous things over there and building community with your courses, which is just terrific, by the way. And I'll let you plug that before I let you go here. But I wanted to kind of transition. I know I just mentioned, I'm very involved in the sports media covering Baylor athletics. But, again, kind of sticking with the theme of this, minor lounge visit today, kind of wanted to talk to you about kind of some big picture college football, college basketball, and then Super Bowl items. And we'll start with college football and then we'll finish with the Super Bowl. But, did you have a chance to watch much college football this year, or pay much attention to the ongoings there? I know Virginia didn't have a terrific year, but
Yeah, I don't think we were too great this year. I watched definitely less than I've watched in the past. I kept up with kind of the big things that were happening, but yeah, definitely less than I've watched in the past. But there's still I always have a special place in my heart for Clemson for whatever reason. I've just always before they were perennial national champs, I've always loved Clemson, so I was keeping an eye on what they were up to and just kind of watching week to week what was happening with the season. So I mean it's
Clemson, of course, did not get the job done against Ohio State, and then the whole playoff thing. Obviously, there's debates about that every year, but especially this year where so many teams played a different number of games and the scheduling was way off. And, Ohio State only played 6 games, and then Alabama played like 11 games and Clemson played 11 games. And, Notre Dame got in, even though they lost the ACC title game. I guess my question is, because I know you kind of paid attention to the big picture items, but when you look at the college football playoff, is there any, how would you fix that, so to speak? And if there is no fix, that's fine. But, would you keep it the same? Would you expand it? I'm all about the underdogs. I love Coastal Carolina's story this year. It was a shame that they lost their bowl game and that their championship game was postponed, suspended due to COVID, because I think they could have made some noise there. But how do you I would love to see them in it. Have you ever thought of a big picture solution for college football, how to fix the end there?
It's tricky because there's this whole narrative this year about it's just an invitational for the SEC and Big Ten, might as well call it that, and everybody's griping that Ohio State got in with 5 games or whatever, 6 games, and I was too. I was upset. I was like, give it to who are they, like Cincinnati, A&M. What was who lost right before, who from the Big 12 lost, who had a decent shot at getting in, and then they kind of dropped the ball towards the end.
Well, that's a whole nother problem. But yeah, Iowa State was ranked 6th, and then they lost their conference championship game, but they lost to Louisiana one of the season.
Yeah, I'll also, for whatever reason, I'm like a low key Iowa State Cyclones fan. I swear, like that's kind of
all for. I love Iowa State because they're such an underdog, but they just screwed the pooch. You can't lose to Louisiana like that, 31-17, and it might have been 31-14 in week 1 and at home, and
that's brutal.
Nice, I like it. I like the view there.
Oh, better. Okay. I think my computer can make it the rest of the way. That was the one. Iowa State. I was like, man, that would be so fun to have a team like that in the playoff, right? It's kind of like that year Washington got in. I mean, they got waxed by Bama, but like Washington was in the playoff. Like that was fun. That was cool.
Yeah.
And I was pretty frustrated that Ohio State made it, and I would again, like Cincinnati had a good case.
Yeah.
But then they get in. And there's all this narrative of how they don't deserve it, and they just crush Clemson, like just stomp on their, trachea, just destroy them. And so it was like, well, I guess they did deserve it. And it's a product of, the sport, recruiting and different things. You just have a few teams just get to the top and like stay at the top. And I don't know, man, it's tricky. I actually remember I was at your house the first year there was a playoff. We watched. I don't know if you remember this. I got to your house right as Jameis was fumbling against Oregon, take it to the house. Like that was an awesome playoff. Like, and then I think Ohio State beat Oregon, but like Ohio State was kind of fresh back then, at least in my mind. And like, that was cool. And the playoffs been good. Like just the Clemson, those 2 back-to-back Clemson Bama matchups were so good.
Yeah.
I've loved the 14 playoff. And then this is the first year I was like, man, it's kind of getting lame if it's just Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, whoever, fill in the blank, like Oklahoma, whoever, Notre Dame, that 4. So I actually think 8, I used to hate the 8 thing. I'm kind of because my dad stuff, I'm like traditions. I think 8 is better because I would have loved to see Cincinnati in there, Georgia, I forget whoever else would have rounded out A&M and whoever else, maybe Coastal Carolina. I think it would be fun. I mean, yeah, they'll probably lose, but then you should end up with the same 4 you would have anyways. And at least you have a chance for there being an upset rather than, Cincinnati playing this, bowl game against Georgia and they get their hearts ripped out anyway. It's just, the whole thing is kind of sad. I don't know. What do you think, man? Like, do you think 8 is where we have to land?
I think 8 is a good sweet spot. But I would change the whole structure of college football, which is very unlikely just because it's so rooted in tradition and the money and, in all the conferences everywhere. But if I said, how about if I were to show you a plan where I could take college football and keep kind of the regional rivalries and histories of college football, throughout the seasons, like, traditional rivals playing each other and everything like that. If I could keep conference championships for you, if I could add some elements of a postseason where, teams are playing at home for maybe at least one round. If I could say, hey, there's some interesting wrinkles where we're going to give underdogs a chance to, maybe move up into a conference or so. And, I'm also going to keep the integrity, for the most part of the bowls in place. Would that be something of interest to you? Put money aside for a second, right? Like, just don't think about that. But would all that I just said, would that be of interest to you? I think most people would answer yes. And to me, it's kind of forming these mega conferences with like 10-team divisions almost, where you play a conference championship at a home stadium, so not a neutral site. So you have like these conference championships at Beaver Stadium or at Alabama or, at the Rose Bowl or USC Coliseum type thing. And then, the winners kind of go to, the 4 bowl playoffs, pick the semifinals, pick 2 bowl games, right? And maybe alternate sugar orange, fiesta cotton as the semis, and make the national championship the Rose Bowl. Like, that's the granddaddy of them all, so to speak. But I would make that the national championship year in, year out. And by making these mega conferences and divisions, you can have some room to have, everybody have an equal conference schedule. I don't think it makes any sense that the SEC plays only 8 conference games while Big 10 and Big 12 are playing 9 conference games. Pac-12, I think, is playing 9 conference games. And, so it's all even. And then you can add, give the Coastal Carolinas, the Cincinnatis, an opportunity to break in and be in those mega divisions, right? And work their way up, type thing. So that at least gives them a seat at the table, right? All you have to do is make a run in your conference, and there you have it. I think that would drive revenue up. I really do. So I think it would be a win-win for everybody. And that's kind of my picturesque solution on how to fix the problem, because I think it was, it's an invitational, and it's twofold. It's right. It's because the college football playoff committee is not insulated from the public. I always relate it to the Supreme Court. Well, the Supreme Court's insulated from the public. They don't have to worry about, being voted in or repercussions for the most part, right? The legislative branch or the executive branch. They can rule solely on the Constitution and right and wrong and everything like that, and make and create precedents. Well, we all know that the college football playoff selection committee is kind of just phoning it in year after year, or the past couple of years here. They're just taking the easy way out. They're not really showing courage, and they're kind of doing it at a detriment to the sport. They're doing it for short-term dollars, and they're damaging the sport overall. So that's kind of my perspective and my take on it. It would be I'm happy to do it. Some people want to talk to me. I'm happy to flesh it out and create this system. I'm doing it anyway, right? I mean, it's out here for anybody to see. It's in the lounge, right? But that's kind of my takeaway on that. I think you do land on 8, but I think you can't just say, all right, selection committees pick 8 teams instead of 4, because it's gonna collapse, right? It's gonna be built on, the foundation's going to be very rocky. It's going to be like, what is it, sand or whatever, and the foundation's going to collapse. They're just going to be like, oh, well, let's get, as soon as Penn State, Michigan are back in, it's like, yeah, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, like those are three. Like, get them in. Let's get Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and let's get Oklahoma and Clemson. Well, no, this isn't the point, right? College football is more than just who has the best talent on the field. It's a whole operation.
Yeah. So would the mega divisions would be like 4 or something, or what would that look like?
The what?
The mega divisions you mentioned. What would that look like?
I think it'd be 4 conferences of 20 and 10 divisions of 8, basically.
Man, can you still preserve the tradition? Is the question? Because I think you
can.
100%. Potentially the problem I think is that the big schools have. See, this is me like.
I love it. It's fine. Yeah.
Like the big schools have all the leverage in the sense that they bring in the dollars. Like they're the kind of the main show in town, and so obviously Cincinnati wants to be in a 20-team mega division. But why does Ohio State want Cincinnati in its 20-team mega division? Right? It's like yeah. I feel like Ohio State loses more there. Now maybe it's possible, but it's just like what's the incentive for the people who are in power to restructure like that? But if they do, and if you can keep the traditions, which I also think is a potential roadblock, because if I don't know, like if you do something weird where like Iowa has to play in the Pacific Division because that's just how the numbers work out. Something weird like that, it could really screw things up. But if you can figure out problem 1 and problem 2, then maybe you're onto something. Maybe that could.
Yeah, and I think that's what I said before. If I can keep the traditions and even I'm thinking even add hey, we're gonna get that Texas A&M rivalry back, and Ohio State's definitely gonna play Michigan, and Iowa's gonna play Minnesota, and all these trophy games are still gonna basically coexist. Really, the only thing I think in that setup, the only thing you lose, quote unquote, is maybe the paycheck games where you're having Michigan play Appalachian State and Alabama play Chattanooga type thing, which it hurts me a little bit because I love those little nuances sometimes, because there's always that one. But I think for the you make the sacrifice for the grander vision of it all, and then what you said is exactly right. Like it's like, what's in it for me type thing. And I think it would have to be it would ultimately be like the revenue, right? I think you'd have to look at it in such a way where, hey, this is gonna bolster revenue if we do it in such a way, in such a manner that makes sense, to where, right, again, if they make it, a lot of conferences like share revenue, like the Big Ten shares revenue now, so you just have to look at that and see kind of what it would look like. But I think if you did that and there was more interest and more intrigue and more opportunities and things like that, I think you could get creative enough to make it work.
Yeah, it would be neat. I mean, it would hopefully solve the problem now of just sort of the same old teams getting slotted in. But so in that case though, is it still, were some of the bowl games going to be conference championships, or the conference championships were bowl games, and then the semifinals are also other bowl games? Or the conference championships you said are played at Cotton Bowl stuff, they're just played in the building, but they're not the official Cotton Bowl.
So it'd be like 20. So four teams of 20, 4 conferences of 20 teams, which means 8 10-team divisions. And I know the numbers are a little shaky on the, that's 80 teams and there's like 124, 126 maybe, yes, type thing. But, and again, I think that's where you could have those teams that are outside the 80, like they can play in. Like that's when, like, it's almost like a Premier League soccer type thing where like you can play up or get relegated, which I think would be pretty cool. If you ask me, it would be an interesting wrinkle to have there.
Michigan has a bad couple of years and they get relegated.
The only downside is like,
depends how you view it. Might not be a downside.
I mean,
Yeah,
again, I'll flesh it out. Like, I don't have endless time on my hands, but anyway, it would be just going with that for now. Two 10-team divisions that they would meet up in a home stadium, right? And just call that the conference championship game. The semifinals would be bowl games, alternate between like those four, which it would be Fiesta, Orange, Sugar, and Cotton. I think those are the four. I don't really consider. There's 6 bowl games. What was that?
Say tough luck to the Peach Bowl in that situation.
I don't really consider the Peach Bowl.
It's okay. Peach Bowl gets relegated, and they're forced there.
Like, hey, we have to make cuts. Like,
total side note, but the Peach Bowl that was the winner of the college football system is the Peach Bowl. My goodness, UVA played in the Chick-fil-A Bowl, as you'll remember, fall of 2011, 8-4, could have been 9-3, but we played the Chick-fil-A Bowl, which was the corporate version of the Peach Bowl.
Yes.
And that was huge. Like, we lost to Auburn, but that was like a respectable bowl. But it was like for sure like a really good tier 2 bowl, right? It's like Chick-fil-A, Peach Bowl, Gator Bowl. What are some others? I guess like probably the Outback Bowl up there.
Alamo, Citrus Bowl.
Oh, hey, speaking of 2011, Alamo Bowl. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Citrus Bowl, exactly. It's like that solid tier 2, like not some new whatever ankle biter bowl, but like it's been around the block for a couple decades.
Yes.
And then out of nowhere, here comes the Peach Bowl getting included in the final 6. Like, how do you think the Gator Bowl felt? How do you think the Outback Bowl felt? How do you think the Citrus Bowl felt? I felt great because in hindsight, it's like, we were in the Peach Bowl. That's one of the 6. It's a great, kind of great thing in hindsight for that 8-5 UVA team. But yeah, I don't know. It's always made me laugh. The Cotton Bowl too, right? Like just kind of get that little boost.
Cotton's more historic than the Peach Bowl. I think we can agree on that for sure.
Yeah, but it's still a step below the others. But yeah, they definitely had a good little run here. So we'll see how this alignment would.
But you could use those 4 as the semis, right? And alternate them 2 and 2 each, every other year, right? And then so it's not a 3-year rotation. Right now it's a 3, you get to be a semifinalist every 3 years. And then just have the Rose Bowl. Rose Bowl is the best bowl game in college football. Without a doubt, it's like unquestioned. Have that be the championship every year. And then just kind of play it like that. I think that's how you have to do it. If you ask me, but
one other thing on the bowls, I always laugh because the Rose Bowl is so clearly just the most incredible, venue and incredible bowl and history and everything else. And then you see like the Sugar Bowl, right? It's like the dentist office lights, like the fluorescent, and it's just the fake turf, and it's like, are these really the same? Like, I always just kind of, it's like when Bama has an off year and they're like playing whoever in the Sugar Bowl, right? It's like, Sugar Bowl is so lame relative to the Rose Bowl, even though they're technically the same pedigree. At least the Fiesta Bowl is like in Glendale. It's pretty nice. I don't know. So I just kind of random musings on the bowls, but I always think about that.
Yeah, I was at the Sugar Bowl live, the 2020 Sugar Bowl, right? Baylor played Georgia.
You were at the interesting 2019 season, 2020 Sugar Bowl. I was like, wait a second.
Yes. That Rule's final year. Mm-hmm. So I covered that live, and it's definitely it's definitely weird. It was funny because I got there, I flew in that morning to New Orleans. I took like an Uber right to the stadium, got in, and I didn't have anywhere else to go. And, basically I just went in right away, and I entered the stadium at I don't know, 10 a.m. or something, maybe 11 a.m. And they're still unveiling the logos on the field, the end zone paint and the Sugar Bowl logo at midfield. They have the tarps over them, and they're coming out. And I'm just the press box is a dome stadium, right? But the press box is 50-yard line up, but it's an open press box. It's uncovered. It's not like you're in a booth or anything like that. It's just open air press box.
Was that worse? It's not as nice, or did you feel part of it? Was it cooler in a sense?
It was cool because you were kind of in the arena in a sense. It wasn't in a state of frenzy, that game, just because it was like Georgia, Baylor, and it was just a little bit subdued, I felt. I could have been really tired by the time the game started. But it was open air, but it was not like creme de la creme. It was very like tight, packed in, a little drafty. And I was sitting there watching the Rose Bowl between Oregon and Wisconsin. I was like watching the Rose Bowl in Pasadena on TV, like sitting in the Sugar Bowl in like rainy, drizzly New Orleans, and like the paradox.
Also, that's 100%. The fact that Oregon and Wisconsin played each other in the Rose Bowl that year, I guess 2 years ago, I completely forgot about that. And it's just funny because I remember watching that game in the minor basement as well. I think 2010, where Russell Wilson spiked the football in time. Remember this? Wisconsin, Oregon.
I think it's 12, but yes.
Okay, yeah.
I know which one you're talking about.
2011 season. 12. Yeah, remember. And then, I don't know, classic old Rose Bowl memory. I forgot they ran it.
They're down 7. They're driving the field, and he spikes it with 0 seconds left. You can't snap it one. It's just very bad clock management. Like, know the situation. Russell Wilson. But yeah, I mean that's kind of how I would fix it. I don't want to belabor the point too much. I'm happy to jump over to the current college basketball season, which a lot of people in Waco are excited about. If you want to kind of turn attention there.
Yeah, I got you. Got to fill me in. I got to be honest. I know. Gosh, you had a newsletter title was Baylor by a Billion, which I thought was awesome. And then I think you texted me or something about like how badly you crushed some team. I forget, but yeah, I know you guys been doing well. But yeah, fill me in. What's been going on?
So, all right, cliff notes of this year's college basketball season. Basically, the women's basketball season. Like, basically, there are 15 teams that could probably make a run and win it. There's no undefeated team. Nobody's cruising like they normally do. That includes Baylor, UConn. Louisville almost lost to Wake Forest the other night, and then they lost the next night. So nobody's perfect. Nobody's kind of in, like, just, how women's basketball is. Like, it's usually like, all right, it's these 6 teams. Like, we're pretty sure. Like, boom. Just lock them in. But Baylor's one of those teams, and they are like something like 12-2 right now, and they're ranked 8th in the country. I think they can make a run. I think they're definitely Elite 8 caliber, and hopefully they can find a way to get into the Final Four. They're still technically the defending champions, so that's kind of the cliff notes on the women's side. On the men's side, this is really interesting, and obviously COVID is affecting every single team. There have been over 1,400 D1 games of men's and women's canceled or rescheduled or postponed or something, which is just nonsensical, right? But I've been saying this for a long time in my newsletters, on here, with other people. Baylor basketball is the best. This team's the best college basketball team that you'll seen at the very least since 2015 Kentucky, and potentially the best college basketball team ever in history.
What?
So, yeah. No,
Are you guys undefeated?
We're undefeated right now. We're 17-0. We just beat Texas. We just beat number 6 Texas in Austin by 14 points. And that was on Tuesday earlier this week. And we beat number 13 Texas Tech at Lubbock. We beat Kansas by 8 at home. When they were top 10, they're a little down this year. Who else? Yeah. We beat we've beaten everybody. We've beaten Oklahoma. They're now in the top 10. We beat them by like 14. So we have a consensus, like, all, first team All-American and Jared Butler. So basically, this is how good Baylor basketball is, right? They're number 2 in the nation. They've been there since preseason. Number 1 has been Gonzaga, also undefeated since preseason.
You guys are number 2?
We're number 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Yeah.
Gonzaga's number 1. They've been Iowa, who's a top 5 team. They've been Virginia, top 10 team. They've been West Virginia, top 15 team. They beat Kansas, which is probably top 20 team. So Gonzaga's they play in a lesser conference in the guys. Big West. I think it's Big West Conference, but whatever.
Oh,
Whatever conference.
no, it's the
It's the.
West.
It's not Mountain West.
I don't know. I just know it's them and St. Mary's. So I went to that game back in 2017.
It's St. Mary's BYU, but it's not Mountain West. It's either Big West or
WCC.
The what?
West Coast Conference. WCC.
Yes.
I cheated. I googled it, but still.
No. Thank you for confirming that. So they play in the West Coast, which is not the caliber of like an ACC or a Big Ten or a Big 12, right? But they beat a lot of great non-conference teams, and they're number one, and they have like a bunch of All-Americans and draft picks projected on their team, right? Baylor is number two. They had 4 guys return from last year's team that could have played it probably overseas or entered the NBA draft. They all four of their starters came back, which is one of the reasons why they're so good. They're the first team since the 1990 to 91 UNLV team to start 17-0 and win every single game by at least 8 points. And they're the first team since the Bobby Knight Texas Tech teams, Bobby Knight Indiana teams, sorry, excuse me. The Bobby Knight Indiana teams that went, from 74 to 76, they're the first team since them to go 10-1 against top 10 opponents. Over the span of 2 years. So just like a bunch of different accolades when you look at it. If you look at like Ken Palm rankings, Baylor's number 3 in both offense and defense. Wow. So they're top 5 in both of them.
Who's number 1 in defense?
Number 1 in defense. It's a good question. I'm not sure. Offense is Gonzaga. Number 1 in offense is Gonzaga. Defense is I don't know. You might want.
Yeah, I just thought it might be us, but it looks like it's not. So
no.
Anyways, that's the top 3 in both is very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I would argue right now at this point they're the best. They're the best team easily since 2015 Kentucky, and you could argue Gonzaga as well. But I think more importantly is the argument that they have an opportunity to be the best team in college basketball ever. Period. So basically it's kind of this watch of Gonzaga versus Baylor to see if A, they can finish the season undefeated, yep, and B, can they match up undefeated in the national title game. Everybody else behind them, Villanova is really good, Iowa's really good, Ohio State's really good, UVA is really good. The Big Ten and Big 12 are the best conferences hands down in the country. But everybody keeps beating each other. Everybody keeps losing. Houston's number 5. They just lost the other night to Villanova. Villanova was number 3. They lost to St. John's. Houston lost to somebody in the American the other night. They're number 5, or they were number 5. So, Iowa was number 8, and they lost to Ohio State yesterday. They were Ohio State's number 7. So basically, Cliff Notes version, it's Gonzaga, Baylor. Can they run the table in each of their conferences, and can they match up in the national title game? Because they were supposed to play in December in Indianapolis, and that game got canceled due to COVID, COVID cases in the Gonzaga program. And now the question is, hey, can they stay undefeated and get back to playing each other in Indianapolis, but this time in March Madness for the national championship that's going to be there? And that's what I'm
in Indy too. That's right, 2021. Gosh.
Yeah, and that's forget Baylor fans and Gonzaga fans. That's what everybody's kind of hoping for, because everybody really wants to see that matchup.
Cool.
So,
man. Did not know you guys were that good. It's exciting.
Yeah. No, I write about in the newsletter, and I think I definitely said, I wrote about that. I think I first made that statement in one of my newsletters like in December. Wow. But then they keep, I've had the privilege of being on the press in the press conferences and things like that, and we've heard the term unbeatable be thrown around a couple times. Players and coaches are giving very politically correct answers, but Jared Butler, who's the point guard and the main guy, I've asked him 2 different times over the course of the season, just not specifically about trying to go undefeated or anything like that, but I've asked him specifically about the play of his teammates, and he's answered it pretty much the same way each time, using one key word, which basically, hey, if we're all playing like lockstep and playing the way we can and each in our role and within ourselves, I think this team's unbeatable. He said that twice. So, yeah, it's just really interesting. It's incredible. I watched Gonzaga last night, who was struggling against Pacific. They were losing at halftime and they were trailing in the second half, but they went on they ended the game on some ridiculous run to win 74-58, and then they won by 18 against Pacific, and then earlier in the week, Baylor number 2 played Texas number 6. And Baylor was losing in the second half of early in the second half, 13 minutes left or whatever. And, Texas got a technical for taunting after a dunk or something. But they ultimately just went on this huge run, this 30-15 run, basically to pull away and win by 15 on the road. And it was there were fans in the stands, so it was semi loud and everything like that. But
nice.
That's kind of where we're at.
It's bold claims, but it sounds like you're backing it up so far. So yeah, let's just don't lose to Iowa State or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can't stub our toe and just lose to somebody that
Road lost to West Virginia, a week after 61-58 or whatever. So not the jinxies, but yeah, no, that's
yeah. It will be interesting. So Baylor yesterday, they just announced that 3 players tested positive for COVID in their program, and 5 more have contact tracing. So they canceled their game on Saturday, tomorrow, and next week's game they were supposed to play at Oklahoma, which would have been a top 10 matchup, but so they canceled. So it will be interesting to see how they perform coming back from that as well. So obviously, a lot of different factors going on in college basketball, trying to get the games in and trying to get, stay healthy and stay safe and everything like that. It's been interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, 1,400. I can't get over that. 1,400 games canceled. That's insane.
Yeah.
They didn't cancel the UVA San Francisco game in December or whatever.
You guys lost that one.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. It was bad. But yeah, what can you do?
Yeah. Virginia got back up to number 8 or whatever, and then lost to Virginia Tech, I think. You guys lost to Virginia Tech, so yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. We're still defending national champs, so we'll ride that for a while.
Yeah.
I just got the pin in the mail. Those pins, I would collect all the pins from the Final Four, and I finally on eBay, was like, all right, I got to buy the Virginia pin from 2019. So I went and bought it. It's $10-15. So I have it's like a shape of Minnesota. It looks great with all the team logos. So completed the collection.
You didn't get one while we were there?
Oh, because I think they were all sold out by the time I went to buy or something. I was gonna wait till Monday. I was like, I'll get it online. I just never got it. And then over a break, I was like, I need to complete the collection. So got it. Yeah.
So if we do have the Final Four and they allow fans, are we in? Are you able to go, or what's
yeah. So look, if they are letting fans in the building, let's talk. I actually think the timing. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. I think we might be filming that week, but dude, if it's the weekend and I fly out on Monday, maybe we could swing it. Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I still technically have not missed a single one, because last year is a wash.
Last year's got canceled. I know. 4 straight. Every Final Four Will and I have been to since 2016. So we'll have to see. That's still a couple months away. So we'll have to kind of play that by ear. But what's a couple of days away is the Super Bowl. Just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on this. Obviously, Super Bowl is a big deal across the world for obvious reasons. Any thoughts on the Patrick Mahomes Tom Brady matchup?
I want the Bucks. It's just a fresh team. Yeah, fresh team. The Chiefs just won. They got to take 5 or 7 years off. I'm all about it's the one place where I'm a socialist. You got to spread the wealth around in these sports, right? Having been a fan of teams for a long time, won nothing until 2019 was a good year. But yeah, I like to just have some variety. So I think the Chiefs just won. Man, I was skiing last month, and everybody and their brother had a Patrick Mahomes jersey, Travis Kelce jersey. Like so many Chiefs fans coming out of the woodwork, which is cool. I get it. Half a billion, and he's a big deal, and he's good. He's in all the commercials, but I think like Brady, yeah, it's cool if he wins another. I'm kind of ambivalent a bit, but Bucks are a fresh team. They haven't won since 2002. They've been really bad for a long time too. I think it's easy to forget that. I think they missed the playoffs like 9 years in a row, going back to the Josh Freeman days.
Oh man,
never forget. Side note: the Skip Bayless tweet, like huge, something like in like, gosh, would have been like 2011, 2012. Like, I don't care what anyone says, I would still take Josh Freeman over Cam Newton any day of the week. So I always laugh about that. But yeah, I just think the Bucks are a fresh team, and that's who I am pulling for. What about you?
So I haven't, it's when I don't have a dog in the fight, it's hard for me to decide, like basically up until game time, is when I make my decision. I usually have a few feelings beforehand, but I was kind of like you. I was kind of leaning towards Bucks, and I don't know what it is, but I feel like I've always been leaning towards Patriots. And I do have Patriots, Tom Brady, in Super Bowls, and I do have a reason to back that up. I'll share that in a second, but I felt like I was leaning towards Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Yeah, a little bit of a fresh team, but I wouldn't mind Patrick Mahomes, kind of going back to back. I do feel like if he wins this one, we're on this path of inevitability to where, kind of like Avengers style, like Patrick Mahomes is inevitable, and, he's just going to keep winning these titles back to back to back, not being able to be stopped. But then I also think about that Bill Simmons article about the Kings and the Lakers series, the Western Conference Finals of 2003, the oral history. I think Bill Simmons wrote it. It was definitely on his site. But that oral history where they're like, a Kings fan was like, well, next year is definitely our time. And it's like, what if we missed our window? And they clearly missed our window. Oh. I think about that quote constantly. I thought about it walking into Minute Maid Park for Game 7 of Nationals Astros. I think about it like basically whenever Baylor's like in a big game, it's like, hey, like, yeah, maybe we should have this time next year, but the opportunity is now. Like, you don't know what next year might bring. Like, they could cancel the whole postseason. So and Patrick Mahomes at least is a fun guy to root for. He's a likable guy. But I think Tom Brady's a likable guy too. But I tend to go underdog a little bit. I think both quarterbacks are underdogs just because of where they came from. Under recruited, under profiled in college type thing, and definitely under, at least for Brady, underdrafted. And so I definitely like the underdog story that both quarterbacks kind of have it. Buccaneers are definitely more of an underdog here, so I'll probably root for them majority for a close game. It's going to be weird. Why it would be his 7th Super Bowl title if Brady does win, and he doesn't show any sign of stopping either. So it'll be weird. So it's like, I feel like you have Brady who's been to 10. This is his 10th Super Bowl, and I feel like you have Mahomes where like he's going to end up in 10 Super Bowls.
He's been to 10 Super Bowls?
This is Tom Brady's 10th Super Bowl.
Gosh, that's insane.
He was drafted 6th round in 2000. Didn't play really his rookie year. So 2001 to 2021, 20 years in the league, 10 Super Bowls.
That's sickening. I mean, that's impressive. I don't even mind because it's a fresh team. Like, I kind of am way more like, all right, he's just great. Like, let's keep it going. Like, if it was the Patriots, I'd be sick to my stomach. Like, I had friends who, I think you met my buddy Chad from Boston. Just Patriots this, Patriots that, just obsessed. And as long as it's with the new team, I don't mind if he's winning more, as long as it's spreading those titles around to different teams.
The different franchises. Okay, that's fair. We've, again, 20 years, like that's like basically we've watched his career like our whole lives, whether casually or really intense. I mean, we're not big Patriot fans or Michigan fans or whatever, but I feel like I can say, like, going into this one, I feel like if I was being, on a talk show or an interview or something on Radio Row at the Super Bowl or whatever, I'd be like, like I would just be pulling out this story. Like, I remember when I was sitting, like, with my parents watching Oakland, New England 0-1 playoffs, blizzard, like, who are these Patriots? Never been, much of anything ever, right? And who's this guy, Tom Brady, and a bunch of other, like, no-name people versus the Raiders, right? Like, I think that's still Rich Gannon, right? And John Gruden was coach, and all these other, like, superstars, black and silver, and blizzard conditions, and then boom, tuck rule. Fumble, reverse, tuck rule, incomplete pass. Like, that's an incredible moment of just NFL history that we can say we got to witness live. I don't know if you ever think about that.
Yeah. I didn't watch that one live. I remember watching the highlights on SportsCenter the next day and being kind of amazed. And I think we're in third grade. It's a long time. I didn't know I'd be sitting here at 27, and Tom Brady's still relevant, and probably will be for a couple more years. We might be at 30 by the time he's done. It's really impressive. And again, it's sort of like, it's kind of cool just to be in awe of the greatness. And again, as long as it's with a new team, I'm cool with it. Yeah, let's see what we can do. So gosh, it's pretty wild.
And I feel like I always, like I said, always kind of lean towards Tom Brady because I just remember that 0-1 run so vividly between the Raiders tuck rule and then I really only remember that one and then the Super Bowl. I really kind of forget the conference championship in between because he kind of got hurt too, but I didn't really watch that Steelers Patriots.
I remember it was, I think it was 24-17. I was in the car with my dad and on the radio, and they were interviewing Bill Cowher. He's like, I told the boys not to hang their head that he could see. Just random memory, I just got to drop that. I remember we were hiking, and we got out the hike, and we were in the car, and that's when, anyways.
No, that's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. I'm glad you shared that because I really don't have any, I'm just reading. I don't really have any, like, cognitive memory of that. I just remember basically going from the snow, the blizzard, the tuck rule to, like, Adam Vinatieri making two incredible kicks, right? He had to make the kick to force overtime and then the kick to win it in overtime in the snow.
Sorry to nitpick.
It didn't go?
Well, no, I think the Super Bowl had never gone to overtime until past.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about I'm back. I'm in the snow. I think he forced over. I think that one did go.
That was.
Oh, okay. Just and then so you're already on my same wavelength because I remember watching the game. We were in our media room watching that game. We had just moved into that house, but we had the media room set up, and so, like, we didn't really have too much furniture or, like, carpeting or anything, but we had that and the game on, and the Rams had just won.
Yeah.
2 years before, right?
No, it was the season before. It was the 2000.
It was directly the
season. No, my bad. Ravens. Yeah, 99. Yep, 2 years before.
Okay. We're young. We need to really dig deep here. But yeah, like the Rams are this, like, greatest show on turf. Like, they're right back in the Super Bowl where they were a couple years ago. Kurt Warner, Bruce, Falk, all those guys. And it was supposed to be a massacre, blowout, and what is this, 0-1? Is this before or after 9/11? I forget.
This would have been after.
It was after, right?
Yeah.
So it was even after. So it was, like, still that patriotic, red, white, and blue feel that I just kind of remember, like, circulating around that game and the nation, because I think that Super Bowl was ramped up security and everything like that. I'm just trying to make sure I get facts right. I don't want to misrepresent anything, but suddenly, like, it's 17 all or 14 all. It's tied and a minute left or whatever. And I just remember, like, really vividly, like, my mom leaves to go upstairs for whatever reason. And then she came back down, like, after they kicked either right before or right after they kicked the game-winning field goal. I think it was right after. And she was like, wait, what? I thought for sure it was going into overtime. Like, there was no time left. Like, how that – and it was just an incredible – that Super Bowl is probably one of the most incredible underdog stories of, in Super Bowl history, I would argue.
Yeah, it was – yeah. In terms of – not like the 28-3 comeback, but in terms of like the actual teams coming in.
Yes.
Probably the most ever, I would think. I'm trying to think of other examples.
I mean, the other one would be a few years later, Patriots-Giants.
Yeah, they're 9-7. That one's pretty good too. No, I think well, just the whole narrative. If you look at the whole season too, though, like with Brady coming in from the injury and all that, yeah, I think that's probably it. The Rams were really good that year too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good they lost, but they were 14-2. I remember I had some friends over, third grade, Rams-Packers. It was the NFC Championship game that year. Well, it was a playoff game. I think my divisional. I think the NFC Championship was Rams-Eagles. But regardless, Rams-Packers, and the Rams just stomped them, like 2-3 touchdowns. I think Aeneas Williams had 2 touchdowns on 2 pick sixes or something. So just the point is that, yeah, the Rams were really, really good that year. And they lost. So
yeah. So that's why I always I feel like I always lean towards Tom Brady, because I'll always just see him in that kind of underdog role, even though he's not anymore. But
now I don't see him as that, obviously. But I know what you mean, like the origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I like your point.
43 is nuts if you can pull it off at 43. I mean, Peyton Manning could barely walk when he was 38 out there. Like,
how did they win Super Bowl 50 that will always be another, it's not as great of an upset because the defense was really good and Peyton Manning was still pretty good, that year, but how they pulled that off.
Yeah, I mean, it's Cam wouldn't die for the ball. No, I don't know. I mean, that was pretty crazy. That was cool. I feel like he needed that. It would be a little odd if he had only won one, Peyton. Like, he got that second one, kind of just solidified things a bit. Like, if his brother ended with more than him, it'd be kind of weird, Like, he got that second one. It's like, okay, that's cool.
Right off to the sunset.
Who's an example of somebody who only won one title? It's kind of awkward. Like
Drew Brees.
Yeah, but he's like a tier 1A guy. I don't think he's
okay. So Brett Favre for sure, right?
Yeah. He's the perfect example of what I'm talking about. It's just like, it's not like Dan Marino status, but it's like, all right, he won one. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is in that territory.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
Brees in there, but again, I think Brees is slightly like a tier down. There's probably NBA examples of this too, but yeah, it's just a bit. Well, I was gonna say
Russell Wilson's only won one. His career is still playing out. But
I still think it was one tier down, but it's just all perception. For me, Peyton is just like in the top 10. Those guys are like top 25. The top 10 guys only won one. It was nice that he got that second one. I was happy.
Jim Kelly obviously never won any.
Who?
Jim Kelly, like him and Dan Marino is like, oh, how did they not win? A ring basically.
It's still hard. I'm not even a Bills fan. It's still hard to hear they lost 4 in a row. It's insane. Can you imagine, like, after year 3, they would despond it, and then it happens again the next year?
Well, I don't know if year 4 was the missed field goal, but yeah.
I think that was we can do this.
Year 3, right?
Okay, I actually this is a good challenge. So, Redskins beat the Bills in 91. The Scott Norwood miss it was in 90. But the question was, I think the Cowboys won in 92, 93, Niners were 94, and Cowboys were 95. And the Packers were 6, Broncos. Okay, so it was the Norwood miss was 3. The third, I think, man, because no, just because
Bills, I think the winner back to Dallas. Not Dallas.
No, hang on. So they lost a Super Bowl to Dallas, so that had to have been 92.
Yes.
So the Redskins beat them in 91. I know the Giants game where they missed was 90, and I'm guessing the Niners. We should Google this. My guess, I'm going to wager that the Niners beat the Bills in 89. Or the Cowboys beat them back-to-back 92, 93. Actually, that sounds more right. What do you think, 90 to 93?
I'm almost positive the Cowboys beat them back-to-back.
All right, well then that's it. So who?
Because I think they were all NFC East teams.
The Super Bowl was like the like they beat the Chargers or something. Let's find out. This is fun.
The Niners beat the Broncos, Chargers, Bengals.
Oh, the Bengals. So who did I knew they beat the Bengals. Okay, so that's Joe Montana. So 89 Super Bowl was Bengals. So then 93 Super Bowl must have been Cowboys, Bills.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Oh my God. So the Norwood miss was your first one. I don't know if that's better or worse. I guess that's better in a way. If you went wide right on your
third or
fourth one, good God. Oh my God, it's so funny. Oh my God, the Bill. At least they did some stuff.
I guess. Okay, so it's the first one. So it's like you had that much motivation to get back there, only to get like stomped 3 more times.
Yes. Dude, Scott Norwood went to TJ.
No way.
Where?
Wow. All this is good reminiscing. Is there a specific Super Bowl memory that you have just like ingrained in your?
Probably 99. Kevin Dyson reaches for the goal line. No, he's short. Never forget that. I was 6. Unbelievable moment. I remember him. I distinctly remember. I won the Titans. He's on the ground and then he's like reaching the ball over. I mean, that's got to be. I don't think I'll ever. I mean, there's other moments that have been as good. I don't know if anything are better than that, but that is unforgettable. I'll never forget that. And then, I mean, the Patriots ones were all good, and the Vinatieri field goals were exciting, but it was always like, to me, that's like a tier B. Like, it was never quite like the, oh my, like unbelievable. Now,
I would say 01's a tier A, but that first one.
I think I went to bed, dude. That's the thing. I was a kid. I think I slept. I didn't wasn't awake for it. So that's the problem there.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, it probably is. Frankly, like driving the field with less than 2 minutes to go. I've watched it on YouTube. And then I think, 07 was awesome. 08 was really good. What was 9 was okay. 9 was pretty good. 10 was. I remember we watched 10 at your house. 10 was okay.
10 was Steelers Cardinals, right?
No, that was 8. 10 was Packers Steelers. That was like.
Oh yeah. The way the Packers won, it's like yeah.
06 was kind of a mess Super Bowl. Steelers. All the Steelers.
It was raining. Colts and Bears, right?
My bad. I was saying 05 was Steelers, Seahawks. Yeah, 06 was total bland as well. It was like okay.
05 was bland. I agree with that.
05 and 06 were both bland. 7 was rad. It was incredible. 11 was really good, actually. The Giants' second one. 12 was just weird as the whole lights out. It was actually a really good game. People forget that. It was that crazy finish where they were they had 4th and goal on the 5.
Yeah, that was.
And
it was so odd.
And then Ron Jaworski that summer said that Colin Kaepernick would be the greatest quarterback to ever play the game.
Wow.
I guess from a certain perspective, he is for some people.
True.
What else?
13 was meh, right? Because that was Broncos Seahawks.
Oh, it was the curb stop. Yeah. 14. 14 to me, it's like 14, probably 7, and then 99. Those are like 14 was, and honestly, 2008 Steelers was really up there. It was just the wrong team won, but dude, 14 is insane. That is in a lot of ways like the best moment, the single best moment. I mean, it really has to be. Well, I would say 99. Like even the 07, like Plaxico Burress catches the touchdown, but there's like a minute left. You know, it's not like literally.
Manningham played before that, right?
What's that?
It's the Manningham play.
No. Manningham was 11. 07 was the Tyree catch. Honestly, okay, fair enough. Tyree,
Tyree
was insane. I don't know, man. Though there's something about like literally the game's on the line. Like the Tyree catch is like top 10 Super Bowl moments in our lifetime. Probably maybe in the top 5, but like good God, 99 and 14. I've on YouTube probably 50 times. I'm still like enjoy just watching that. It was the Butler, Malcolm Butler pick.
Butler's pick. Yeah. 15 was that Manning, was that Super Bowl 50?
Yeah, that was a fun one, but it wasn't like particularly exciting.
I'm just trying to keep them organized.
Yeah, 16 was the comeback. It's nuts.
16 was like, that's when Tom Brady became the GOAT.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. But it was kind of a lame end. Like it was overtime, but it was like a lame, and it was just like he ran it in.
It was a lame ending, but the comeback was like.
No, the game itself, all-timer, not the moment. It's like there's the game and the moment. It's like the game, all-timer, the moment. Yeah.
Why is there always like just this unbelievable catch whenever Tom Brady's teams are in the Super Bowl? Like look at all the I really can't remember specifics. Well, 0-1 on that drive, on that game-winning drive, there's like a really nice catch, I think, on the sideline, and then the Giants, David Tyree, you're right, 11. That was an unbelievable.
No, sorry. Manningham was 11.
No.
Tyree was 7.
Tyree was 7.
Well, the Manningham catch was sweet too. It was not quite as amazing, but it was still pretty good.
That was on the sideline, right? Yeah.
It was really impressive. And then
14, there was a really there was a Patriots catch right on one of those drives, right?
Yeah. To me, it's not quite as good. I think it was like Danny Amendola or Edelman. It was either Edelman had like a bobblehead catch. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
To me, it's just the fact that I don't remember it as immediately tells me that I don't think it was quite as good. But it was good.
I'm just saying, like, more than just a regular catch.
Okay, 2014, the catch that this is like the Marcus Page moment. Say it. I know you know it. The Seahawks. Do you remember? I was gonna say Javon Curse. That's dating me. That's a Titans D lineman. But Curse, I don't know his first name. The Seahawks receiver, unbelievable, like top 5 moment all time in the Super Bowl if the Seahawks win that game. They are 45 yards away with under a minute to play. And Russ finds him down the sideline on the 4-yard line, falling down, bobbling.
It was the Seahawks
off his leg. Yeah, it was the Seahawks. It was Seahawks.
Seahawks catch. I'm not saying it had to be Tom Brady throw.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. And it was, and then you have it's the Marcus Page, turnaround, and Chris Butler, what was his name, who hit the shot for Villanova. It's like the exact same thing. Like
right.
We were in the building for the 2016 Final Four. We know the Marcus Page shot was the moment. They both were, but Marcus Page shot, I'm still more impressed by. I've never
100%
like that in my life. It was unbelievable. And the Curse catch was exactly that, but then Malcolm Butler upstaged it. And now,
yeah,
unbelievable Super Bowl.
Yeah, so it was the Seattle catch in 14, and then 16 was it Amendola that had that pop-up catch against Atlanta. Like, that was like, how did he catch that type thing? And then there wasn't really any great catches against Philadelphia or the Rams, but like there always seems that I can.
Well, Philly, though, you have the Philly special. That was epic, obviously. I mean, that's like a moment. It's not like I get what you're saying. It doesn't fit the Tom Brady thing, but it's still a amazing moment. And then
just this unreal, spectacular catch, like either side that
the Rams Patriots worst Super Bowl in our lifetime. That game was horrible, and I went into the office the next day, and this kid who's a Pats fan was like, dude, only people who didn't like that game are people who don't like football. Like, football fans know that was great defense. I was like, no, dude, I'm a huge football fan. That game sucked. Nothing interesting happened. That was horrible. It was just boring cover to cover. It was awful.
It was a snooze fest. And that's what you can't get over, because 2018, that should have been Mahomes and the Chiefs. Remember that Monday night game between the Rams and the Chiefs that year?
Of course, it was unbelievable. But then what happened in the playoffs?
They were ahead. They picked. So this is what happened. Tom Brady was behind. They were driving. He throws an interception. He throws an interception on 3rd and 3. We have a minute left. Game over.
Mahomes did?
Offsides on D Ford, who had jumped.
Brady threw a pick and then it got negated?
It got negated, automatic first down. They score a touchdown, force overtime, and then they score in overtime.
I forgot all about that. How about that? Oh, it's dark. Yeah, that's insane. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And that really should have been the beginning of the Mahomes era, because they would have been in the Rams in the Super Bowl, you would have to imagine, if the Patriots did. And then
it might have at least been an interesting game. I mean,
right, sure. And then win last year, and then they would be going for a 3-peat this year. So that's why I kind of think Mahomes wins again. It's just this inevitability, but who knows? It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I mean, I think it's an interesting matchup. I don't know. I'm always just glad like when the Steelers are out. There's certain teams I just can't
Yeah.
stand. So as long as they're cleared out of there, like who's on the NFC side who I would have hated? I mean, even the Packers I would have been pretty bored by. Like I just don't care. I just don't care. The Packers have always been good. I just
They
my
haven't been
rooting
years.
my rooting heuristic if the Redskins aren't in it, it's just like who has been bad for a long time who has a chance to win. And like the Packers have been good our whole lives. Like yeah, they haven't won that many Super Bowls. They've won a couple. Like bored. Like Packers Steelers are the worst possible matchup I could imagine. Whereas like Chiefs Pats, the Chiefs were terrible forever until they never won a Super Bowl until last year. So it's like it's a pretty good story.
Yeah.
Like I'm not tired of them, I guess. And then again, I said the Bucks, they're trash.
Those Browns would have been interesting. Get the Titans back in the Super Bowl. That would be cool.
Oh, any of those would have been awesome. I would have much preferred that. But I always make a list before the playoffs, like who do I want in there? Yeah. Yeah. Bills, Browns, AFC. I was hoping for Bills, Browns, AFC title. That would have been unbelievable. But it turned its light back on. But it didn't happen. So what can you do?
Yeah. Well, cool. I think, that's just a lot of great stuff. And I know we could probably go on all night, but thanks so much for coming on, sharing some of those big picture items. I know you're my connection to the Silicon Valley, talk about some, we just basically solved the college football playoff problem. And so, thanks for that. And college basketball, keep a look at for Baylor to, it could be Gonzaga too, but basically, if they meet undefeated, you're going to have one of the best basketball teams in college basketball history winning the national title if that happens. And then Super Bowl Sunday, yeah, I think we're both leaning Bucks for maybe a few different reasons, but interesting nonetheless. Will, again, thanks. Let you plug yourself and your platforms. Where can the people find you?
I have a show every week. I just reminisce about old mid-2000s NFL. So, I'm just kidding. I wish. I love that stuff. Twitter at Will Mannon and willmannon.com. Do some writing. So check it out. But, yeah, man, thanks for having me on. This was really fun.
Awesome. Will Mannon, Forte Labs, joining the Minor Lounge. Thank you so much, sir. Have a good night.